So I've been in business since 1994. I've been running my own company since 1999. We have a small staff. Really, my focus is staying with the we call mass affluent, normal people, nonprofit, and the small business market. You can read all this later. There will be a deck handed out, PDF or PDF version for you to be able to review in the future, so you don't have to take notes, which is a great thing. So I thought I'd start us off by just talking about a little bit of retirement plan facts. I like looking at percentages. I like looking at little tidbits. I'm a trivia pursuit kind of guy. And so I went going through and don't sue me. I did not notate, I plagiarized the crud out of this thing. Deal with it. So through the many different studies I went through, I looked and found these great facts that I find interesting that you probably don't. Anyway, 89% of employees, okay, this is across the nation, employees deemed a retirement plan an important employment consideration. So almost 100% of employees are like, hey, what do you have as a retirement benefit? At the same time, a different study said 89% of small business employers agreed that offering it is a helpful factor in hiring and retaining workers. Wow, okay, let's put the two and two together. Nearly 100% of employees want it. Nearly 100% of employers say it's really helpful. Yet we don't have all the participation we want. Now, 96% of the small business owners that actually do a plan, they did it because they said they wanted to help their employees. Not because they were mandated to, but because they actually wanted to help their employees. And also, on a selfish note, 83% of small business owners knew that they should be saving more for their own retirement, which is a great opportunity through their small business plan. Now, all of that stuff, that's a lot of numbers, right? A lot, nearly 100% numbers across the board. Yet, we find in the United States only 34% of companies with fewer than 10 employees offer a retirement plan. Huge disconnect, right? 90% say, hey, it's important. Only 34% of the companies do it. One in four US adults don't have any retirement savings at all in any way. Workers, we found, are 15 times more likely to save for retirement if they have a payroll deduction savings plan at work. So all these things are saying, they're screaming at us, have a retirement plan through work. So why don't small businesses have a plan? Why? Well, we did a study again on that, and they said, okay, all you small businesses, 50 or less employees, why don't you have a plan? Well, basically half of them said they didn't think they could afford it, right? And we'll talk a little bit about costs. When you go down to the micro business level, which probably most of the company people on this call are, is 10 or less employees, 71% of that subset said they don't think they can afford one. When asked again for the small businesses, well, what's another reason? 37% said they're too darn busy focusing on the company and can't even give time to do it. And then finally, 21% of small business owners said they have absolutely zero idea of how in the world to start something. So all this stuff is coming to a head saying, okay, people are not saving for retirement. Studies have shown that saving through a company retirement plan radically increases the ability for an employee to save for retirement. So we're going to have a carrot and a stick situation coming up. We have a stick. States are the stick. Okay. States are the one that tells us we have to do something. In state mandate, 19 states and have currently enacted this mandate. 9 have already got to the point of starting to fine people to have to have a state mandated retirement plan through work. Must have a state mandated retirement plan. I repeat again, must have a state mandated retirement plan. This is one sponsored by the state. The typical state plan, Roth IRAs, they are typically based on a certain number of employees. They do require automatic enrollment, and the investments that are basically you're stuck into are the ones that are managed by the state. That is the general rule of a state mandated plan. California, we're all in California, so we're going to talk the California mandate, which is Cal Savers. That is the state mandated plan that we all need to be in. So we had, if you had 5 or more employees, 4 years ago, had to be in the state mandated plan. Starting at the end of this year, okay, so we've got 11 months to fix this thing. If you have one employee, you have to be in the state mandated plan, period. And eligible employees are basically anybody who's 18 years old who earns $1. As long as they're not an owner and you have a W-2 wage of $1, you have to offer a plan to that person. There is only one exemption. The exemption to being in a state mandated plan is you offer your own company sponsored plan. A company sponsored plan, the typical ones would be a 401k, a SEP IRA, or a simple plan. That is probably 95%. There's 457s and a few other things that we could talk about. There's cash balance, defined benefit plans, but essentially those three are almost all your options. So 401k, SEP, or simple, or you must be in Cal Savers by the end of this year. There's some significant penalties. They're starting to come down the pipe. We already have a 250. Okay, if you don't have compliance within 90 days, there's another 500 per employee if you're not compliant within 180 days. And looking at the state of the budget of California, you can bet your butt there's going to be significantly more fees going on because Newsom has to pay for something, right? So there are going to be severe non-compliance fees that you're not going to get out from under. So the STIP says you have to do it, right? The plan itself, well, why do I want to do that plan? Why do I want to do the state mandated plan? It's simple. I'm going to say it, and as politely as I can, it checks a box. Okay. There's no employer fees and no employer contributions. You don't have to do diddly squat other than get employees registered, process payroll on a regular basis, and that's basically all you got to do. That's it. No commitment by you other than processing the payroll for the employees. So it's easy, it checks a box, you won't get fined. It's not going to solve the problem of employee savings. It's not going to solve the problem of employer savings, but it is something to do. So why specifically should you not do it? Limited investment options. Roth IRAs are it. You have no other avenue other than a Roth IRA. Manual processing of everything. There's no payroll integration. There's no administrative support. You're on your own, basically. Or you can still call the state of California and expect them to help you, which, good luck on that one. The annual contribution for employees is limited to $7,000 or $8,000, depending on your age. Now, what's really a sticking point for Cal Savers that it's kind of, you have to read the fine print on this, is that bucket of money for a company sponsor, a state sponsored Cal Savers plan. It's the same bucket of money if you have your own individual personal IRA, Roth or traditional. So if you say saved $5,000 on your own in your own IRA and your company had a Cal Savers Roth, you now only got $2,000 more or $3,000 depending on your age. So that bucket of money is shared. So it really limits the ability to contribute to retirement on any given year. There is no way as an employer to do any additional contributions. It is, in fact, employee only. And really an interesting one too for the high income earners, your owners, your some of your lead techs, et cetera. If they're single and making over $150,000 or married making over $236,000, you're going to get phased out. So they can't even participate in any company plan because of Roth contribution, or Roth income levels. They get phased out. You got no assistance. And here's an interesting one, they get no tax credits. I'll talk a little bit more about some of the tax credits from an employer-sponsored plan, but from a state-sponsored, state-mandated plan, they're not going to give you any tax credits. You get no benefit. All you're going to do is check the box. Now, some of you, you're going to, if you don't have a plan yet, you might look at your employees, talk to them and say, so none of you want to save for retirement? Well, okay, well, I'm just going to offer Cal Savers and nobody's going to do it. Everybody's going to opt out. I'm done. I checked the box. So if you want to know more about Cal Savers, they have a website, keep it simple, calsavers.com. Now, what's really important is if you do have a plan, you have established one now, we're going to establish an employer-sponsored plan. To get an exemption from the state mandated plan, you must go to the Cal Savers website and request an exemption from the mandate. It doesn't matter if you have a plan. If the state of California doesn't know you have the plan, they're going to come after you for fees and you have to fight them on that. So make sure if you're going to have a retirement plan that's not the state mandated one, make sure you've done your exemption. So moving on, and again, I'm going quickly because this is really boring for most of you. The common employer-sponsored plans, if you want to do something other than checking a box, you actually want to, as 96% of the small business owners that offer plans said, we want to help the employees. These are your best options, a simple plan or a 401k plan. The difference is it's base model, loaded model. That really, let's use, automotive parlance, base model, loaded model. The base model is a simple plan. It's got a lower contribution limit. It's got the options for administration and fiduciary oversight considerably less. There's no loans available to the plan. You can't have an additional plan like a profit sharing or cash balance plan added on top of it. It gets a little bit convoluted because each individual participant or employee has the ability to take their portion and move it to any investment company they want. So you might find yourself through payroll sending, Joe Smith's money over to Fidelity and Dan Jacobs' money over to Vanguard. So your payroll becomes very convoluted very quickly because there's not a requirement to stay within the same plan prototype that you establish. Maybe you established it at Transamerica. Every participant has a choice to go wherever they want. The 401k, on the other hand, you do have a lot more options, a lot of bells and whistles. You have a higher contribution limit. You have the ability to have a centralized plan where there is going to be a lot of fiduciary support. You have the ability to do loans. You have the ability to do additional retirement plans. Both of the plans can do pre-tax or Roth. That is something new in the Secure Act. Previously, a simple plan could only do pre-tax. It is a new thing that you can do Roth, so that is a bonus that they've offered in the Secure Act 1.0 and now 2.0. So those are the things I would say when we look at small businesses, 50 and smaller, what's the ratio of employer plans that are 401k versus simple? It's probably about 90% 401k, about 10% simple. Simple, just the increased administrative burden to the employer, including the fact that employer is now responsible for answering questions for the employee in terms of investments, options, things like that, that there's not that burden on the 401k. Almost everybody goes to a 401k. So digging into the 401k, excuse me, I'm going to have an occasional cough. I got that stupid cold that everybody had, and my cough 3 weeks later still hasn't gone away. Most annoying thing in the world. Anyway, so we'll talk about some of the new stuff that we have going on that if you were going to be managing your own 401k and don't have some fiduciary protection, like we'll talk about in our plan, you're going to have to know. So new plans, new stuff that's come out, auto enrollment. If your plan has been established in the last 2 years, your plan must have auto enrollment or it's going to be out of compliance with the federal rules. So we talked about the carrot and the stick for a moment. The state mandate is a stick. Most of Secure Act is actually a carrot. Most of Secure Act is trying to find a way to provide a plan that's going to be better for employees. So it is a carrot. It's trying to help us encourage employers to provide a plan. So the auto enrollment, though, is one thing because, again, auto enrollment radically increases participation rate. Tax credits. So people, one of the things the employers said was, hey, we can't afford it. Well, what a lot of people don't know is there are significant tax credits to establish a plan. So establishing a plan will get you up to $5,000 a year over 3 years, $15,000 maximum for startup tax credits. These are direct credits. These are not deductions. Direct credits offsetting the cost of a plan. So you have up to $15,000 to play with. Depending, again, it's going to be based on non-highly compensated employees, how many you have. That's what it's going to be based on, but it is up to $5,000 maximum. Up to 100% of the startup cost to be covered. You have an additional credit for having auto enrollment, which, well, that's awfully nice of the government. They're saying you have to have auto enrollment, and we're going to give you a credit for the first 3 years to do enrollment, which is awfully nice. The next tax credit that almost nobody knows about is if you offer a plan that has a match that match for all the non-highly compensated employees or those earning actually specifically under $100,000 of income, they will give you a tax credit for up to $1,000 of your employer match. So anytime for the first 2 years you give an employer match to an employee who's making less than $100,000, you get a direct tax credit for doing so. Over the next 3 years after that, it declines. I think it's 75, 50, and 25 off the top of my head. But you got 5 years of tax credits that's going to offset any employer cost to offer a match for employees. So that is a real carrot to make you think, okay, our startup costs can probably be 100% covered, and any of my obligation I have to give as an employer to the employees, I'm going to get significant tax credits to offset that. Another thing is employee eligibility is changing. In the past, we could exclude part-time employees, no longer can. If they have worked at least 500 hours, so basically 1/4 time, 2 straight years, they have to be included in the plan. So that is something to be aware of. If you've been able to have, the little teenager who's cleaning the shop, 10, 15 hours a week, 2 years in a row, he's going to have to be included. In financial incentives. Now, this is another brand new item for 2025. You can bribe your employees to participate. You can give them like a gift card. They didn't give us a hard dollar amount, but a lot of the IRS notes that I've looked at and ERISA notes said, like around $100 as a gift card to try to get them to get in the plan. So a great way to encourage employee to start saving for their own retirement, give them a gift card. Student loan debt repayment. Now that's another really interesting one. So if you have a younger person, maybe they did, tech school or whatever, and they got student loans, and they're trying to pay down these student loans as they're trying to work their way up from, changing the oil and working their way up to the ladder, right? They can, if you again are altruistic, you really want to care about your employees, you can treat their student loan repayment as if it was a contribution to the retirement plan. So let's say they did $1,000 into a student loan repayment. You can match that $1,000, whatever your matching formula was, and put it into the retirement account for their benefit. So there is a great way to encourage people to pay down their debt and start retirement savings at the same time. So that's a really nice little bonus as you're bringing in some new hires, some younger hires. Catch-up rules. We all get old. We're all behind the 8 ball and when we're supposed to save for retirement. It used to be anything age over 50 would give you an enhanced catch-up ability to contribute higher. Now it's going to be a two-phase. It's age 50 to 59. For 2025, it'll be 7,500. For age 60 to 63, it's going to be 11,250. That is going to be indexed. So next year, those numbers will change. But if you are in that 60 and 60 to 63, you do get into additional. Why they don't go higher than that? Like, what if you're 65? I don't freaking know. I didn't write the rule. But for age 60 to 63, you do have a window for an additional catch-up. Roth only catch-up plans. So if you are a high earner making more than $145,000 a year, if you have a 401k plan, your plan must make those catch-ups as a Roth. That is a new rule. It does make sense, I guess. No, it really doesn't. I don't know why they did it, but anyway, it does have to be a Roth, so you have to be aware of that as an owner if you are managing your own plan rather than have a 316 fiduciary overseeing it. Matching employer contributions can now be Roth. Now, a lot of plans have not done that yet because it is an optional thing. So a lot of plans, particularly including our plan, has not yet introduced the matching employer contributions as Roth. We are still only pre-tax. That is coming. It's a slow rollout because it is an optional thing. It is going to require all the 401k companies to change their plan prototypes. So it's a slow rollout. A lot of really new opportunities for those who are still working to be able to get access to their 401k funds without a penalty. Still going to be taxed, but it waives the penalty. You're going to be able to get it for disaster relief. So all the people who are losing homes right now in the fires, they will have access to a portion of their 401k without penalty. Other financial hardships, like say death of the family, something like that. Emergency expenses, that's a brand new one. You get up to $1,000 for short-term emergency expenses. Domestic abuse is another one. If you're subject to domestic abuse, you have the ability to access your retirement plan to get out of that. Terminal illness, you have early access to retirement plan. Another new one, childcare and adoption. You have the ability to take money out of your 401k. And again, this is only 401k. This is not for simple. This is for 401ks only, not for Cal Savers, not for any other thing, but 401ks. If you're going to adopt or have a new child and will have childcare expenses, you can withdraw and you have up to 3 years to put that money back into the plan, which is really a nice thing to be able to do, which does not impact your ability to do regular contributions. So if you max out your contributions, you can still roll money back in because it's treated like a rollover. So let's say you already did your 23,500, you need to take 10,000 out to do an adoption. Over the next 3 years, you put that $10,000 in on top of your normal contribution. So that is a good way to get short-term access to cash. Simple plans had a lot less to do with the 401k, with the Secure Act 2.0 and 1.0. Really, the only major change to simple plans, because simple plans are like the redheaded stepchild of employer plans. Nobody does them. They did change the contribution step up or catch up provisions. You can now. Now this is a big one. A lot of people have done simple in the past and realized it stinks. It used to be you couldn't do a mid-year switch. You basically had to ride out the simple for the entire calendar year and then start a new plan the next year. They've now made it so you can replace a simple plan at any point during the year and start right into a new Safe Harbor 401k in the same year. Simple plans now can optionally accept Roth contributions. So simple, like I said before, was only pre-tax. Now it's pre-tax and Roth. It's really on a case-by-case basis in terms of the financial institution. I would say about half of the institutions now accept Roth in their simple plans. Half of them are still not there. So that is a run through, a very quick run through, because really I don't like to do presentations or talk. So you get me quick. Of all the major Secure Act 2.0 provisions, I will tell you that the 2.0 part of the Secure Act is 130 pages long. The 1.0 version is over 300 pages long. So I just summarized nearly 500 pages of Secure Act changes for retirement plans in what, like 16 minutes or something like that. So for those of you who already have plans, right? Obviously we have an ASCCA plan that we're going to talk about that, we think it's a tremendous plan. But if you already have a plan, whether through us or somewhere else, I just thought I'd throw you a bone here and say, how can you get your participation rate up? Because I have a few plans that I manage, and I'm having a heck of a time getting these employees going. Well, auto enrollment. Okay, that's a big one. 78% in participation rate. That's supposed to say increase. 78%. No, that's right. 78% participation rate. It's like 49. Here we go. 49 if you don't have auto enrollment. Remember, we are required, if you started the plan in 2020, into 2022 or newer, you have to have auto enrollment. If you have an older plan that's kind of gotten stagnant, you can do a plan amendment. Typically costs about $250 to $500, depending on who runs your plan. Turn on auto enrollment, significantly going to increase your plan participation. I have a lot of plans with employees that didn't even realize they were participating because of the auto enrollment. And they're like, oh my gosh, where did this 3, 5, 10, whatever $1,000 in my retirement plan come from? Well, you've been contributing for these years. Oh my gosh, who knew? So it's a great thing. Plans with a match. Okay, if you don't offer a match, you're really missing the window to get these employees to contribute. A match is free money. Okay, whenever I sell a plan, I first work for the employer. My job is to find the best thing for them, whether it be steering them to Cal Savers, a simple plan, a SEP plan, a 401k, whatever it might be. Once the plan's established, I kind of turn against the employer for a minute, because now I go to all the employees and say, you see that employer? He wants to give you free money, and I'm going to get you set up. So you're going to take every dollar of free money you possibly can from that guy. So I really have an emphasis on encouraging employees to get the match. Employer is going to retain employees if they offer a good match. That's part of that incentive to work for you and retention. Financial education. Employees don't know what's going on, and frankly, employers don't typically have enough time to know what's going on either. So 59%, this was an interesting statistic. It blew my mind. 59% of those not participating in a plan through work honestly thought they were already participating. Just out of sight, out of mind. They're like, oh, we have a 401k. I must be in there. That is why the mandate from the federal government from Secure Act to have that auto enrollment. They're like, hey, well, if you already thought these employees already thought they were in, might as well make it so they will be in. 83%, 80 freaking 3% of workers have regrets about their retirement planning decisions. So education, financial education, teaching them what to do and what not to do about retirement savings is huge in increasing participation. And frankly, tooting my own horn for a moment here as a financial advisor, there's a statistic out that says 61% of employees are confident in their retirement planning when working with an advisor. The other 39 just must be working with a really crappy advisor, not with me. But 61%, I mean, mine obviously is 100% if you work with me. But in general, 61% of employees feel a lot better when they have an advisor. So where does that fit with me on advising if you have a plan with us? In my role as a financial advisor, I strive to speak to every single employee of a plan that I have. And let's just say it's tough. You know, my fingers have bled essentially trying to text every single employee and get a response. Because let me tell you that you've got them slaving away. They do not pick up the phone during normal working hours. I can guarantee you that. So I try to provide individual advice for every employee. I try to provide, particularly for the owner, because the owner is also usually an employee. So we really focus on a plan that's going to work well for the employer. Dan's going to take over here in a moment and talk about our specific plan, but I can tell you some of the questions I ask potential employers when they say, "Hey, Grant, what should I do? Should I do Cal Savers? Should I do a simple? Should I do a SEP? Should I do a 401k? What should I do?" First thing I say is, well, let's do a census of your employees. How many are actually going to contribute? Does it make sense to even offer a robust plan? If nobody's going to do it, why? And then I say, well, what about you, Mr. Employer, Mr. Shop Owner? What are your plans for your money? And I kind of done some math on this and thinking about the cost of a plan after 3 years. Because remember, first 3 years, we could probably get 100% of the cost covered through the tax credits. After 3 years, your typical cost on a safe harbor plan um, is going to be somewhere between $0 to $1,000. And I say, okay, let's just say it's $1,000. We got to make them $1,000 expense to set this up. How much are you going to contribute? Usually for me, if they're going to want to contribute more than they could do in their own individual IRA, which again is 7,000 or 8,000, if they want to be able to do more than that, I automatically right there say, well, you've already made the decision that a retirement plan makes sense. Because if you go over that $7,000 or $8,000 IRA limit, you're already now eating away that $1,000 cost by your increased ability to contribute and get a tax deduction. So we'll just round it off and say, as an owner, husband and wife count, right? Any owner, if you're going to do $10,000 or more in an employer plan, or what to do that, you should be in a 401k. Anything less than that, or lack of participation from an employee, maybe you do just go check the box with Cal Savers. It's simple, and if nobody's going to opt in, you don't have any census, you don't have any process about. So ooh, there's a feedback from somebody. So that's my part of it. What we're going to do. Hola, ¿qué pasó? What's going on? So anyway, I'm going to have Dan now talk about our plan, what we have to offer, how it came about. Let me just preface it by saying, when I started working with the ASCCA and we managed the Education Foundation, the operating fund, and I'd already kind of worked with a couple of the members of the ASCCA on an individual basis. this Cow Savers thing is really when it was rolling in of this, hey, 5 and up mandate. And John's like, hey, have you ever thought about blah, blah, blah? I said, yeah, that makes sense. So I came before the executive committee. And, I think they looked at 3 or 4 different people. They just run to me. I prostrated myself. I was like, please, please take me. But we put a proposal together, and the proposal really, and Dan will talk more about it, is we were able to basically treat the entire association as a single company when it comes to economy of scale for pricing. So a single shop with 5, 6, 7 employees or whatever would typically have a much less robust plan being offered to them and have significantly higher costs than they are going to get through our plan. So we offered that to the ASCCA. They said, great, we'll run with it. We did a pretty significant blast over the first 4 months of 2023. Got a good participation rate, not as much as I think we should have. I think there's a lot of people out of compliance right now still that I've not been able to reach. 2024, we focused the business on saying, okay, you know what? We're going to move off the employer for a moment. We're going to focus on the employees. So all of 2024 was us just hammering through all the participants, trying to get them set up, making sure they had, named beneficiaries, making sure they were in the right asset mix for their needs. We talked to the people we could reach about ancillary needs like adequate life insurance. Because I am not just doing the 401k asset management. I am a comprehensive financial advisor, and so we deal with the employees college savings questions, life insurance question. I'll talk to them about, well, does it make sense to pay down my mortgage? Whatever financial planning concept they need. If they're in a shop that has a plan through me, I will freely answer any question they possibly have. Um, Even if you don't have a plan with me, maybe you won't get as much time, but I would encourage any employee that ever comes to you as an owner with a question about finances, or you yourself have a question about personal or business finances, their retirement savings, or any other thing to do with investing, call me. I will make time to walk through with you uh, and answer whatever questions I can. So that's kind of how we came into being. We are going to be now with this mandate restarting for the 1 and up employee. We're going to be going through, I think we have like 450 shops, something like that, in California, and we're gonna be calling everybody one by one, saying, "Hey, here we are. Do you have a qualified plan through either state or employer sponsored? Yes, great. You want us to evaluate your plan versus other options? No, you're happy? Well, good for you. Then we'll just check box compliant. What we do is just give an abbreviated statement to the executive committee and say, of all the shops, we are able to confirm these are compliant with the state of California mandate. These are ones that are not compliant, and here's the status of trying to get them compliant. So we do try to do all that because that is a service the association wanted to provide, is helping each individual shop owner take a little weight off of you in terms of knowing what in God's green earth they need to do about retirement plan and all these rules. So that is, in a nutshell, what we do. Now we're gonna do a little smidge of a sales pitch. And Dan's gonna talk about our plan and why it's the best darn plan you have ever come across in your entire life, and you would just be moronic not to use our plan. That's exactly how it's gonna be going. So anyway, take it over, Dan.
All right, thank you, Grant. I'll let you direct the slide so you can move forward.
I forgot to share it for you. That's my bad. Sorry about that.
There you go. So as Grant mentioned, if you have made a decision and you said, look, I don't want to do a state plan, I don't want the limitations of a simple, you rather just do the ASCCA plan. Here's some of the slides we're going to go over that's going to talk about how to administer the plan, what the risk is in administering a 401k plan, and how we're going to take that liability off of you. So first off, there's 5 pillars in every 401k plan. So obviously there's the administration part. There's obviously a liability. There's compliance piece to it, there's cost to it, and the providers. So let me talk about each of the five, and then we'll go on to the next step on essentially what your responsibilities are, but easy to administer. So in this plan, you don't have to be a 401k expert. You have myself, you have Grant, and you have a team behind the scenes that essentially are performing over 90% of the administrative duties that are required for a company to offer retirement plan. So that's something that we do. It is something that is not common in the industry. So as Grant mentioned, we were able to get economies of scale, given there's hundreds of shops around the state, to get a very competitive plan with a very robust feature set. In regards to liability, so we are actually going to be signing off on a 5,500. So essentially what that means is every 401k plan is required to file a 5,500 at the end of the year. So every shop owner has to sign that form at the end of the year. Your name is now public on the DOL website. That's something that we shift the risk from you to us. Again, we don't expect you to be a retirement expert. So we are taking on that risk of signing and filing a 5,500. And again, doing 90% of the tasks that a retirement plan has. In regards to fully compliant, we want you to avoid the state mandated fines. So it's 180 days out of compliance. I know Grant went over this briefly, but 180 days and 360 days. So there's different time frames on compliance in regards to CalSavers. Make sure if you do have a plan already, whether it's a simple or whether it's a plan with us, that you do go on the calsavers.com website to register so the state knows that you already have something in place. But do know that we make sure that your plan remains compliant. Just because you have a 401k plan, if it's not with us and maybe it's with another provider, it does not mean that it's compliant. I just got off the phone today. I'm taking over a plan from a company where they underfunded the plan. They're going through an audit and they have a lot of problems and we have to fix it. So just because you may have an active plan doesn't mean it's fully compliant. Since we are signing and filing the 5,500, our name is on it. It has to be compliant, or guess who's liable? We are, not you. In regards to cost, I'm going to cover cost at the end of the presentation, but do know that we are providing a very cost competitive solution and established providers, just so you know who all the players are. You have in regards to 316, 338, you'll see it on here, but just to make it really simple, Transamerica is the house for the money. So for any shop owner, any participant, any of your employees, they're signing on to Transamerica, which again was one of the leaders in the retirement space. We're actually #1 in pooled plan business. And we're actually #1 in manufacturing, #1 in healthcare. So we're very top in the 401k market. So that's essentially who we are. TAG is essentially signing off as a third-party administrator on the 5,500. And Grant's firm, Knox Financial, is acting as the independent fiduciary, independent advisor, selecting each of the providers. So Grant mentioned this before, that he went through a very thorough evaluation on what providers to choose. And so this is who he selected. So again, for anybody signing online, you're essentially going to see Transamerica, but do know that you may see TAG pop up here and there. They're dealing with the compliance behind the scenes, but they're just that, they're behind the scenes. And then with that being said, on to the next slide, I'm going to talk about 90% of the duties that you would have to do in a traditional 401k plan. We take those on. So on this slide that you're seeing right here, this is everything that you would need to do inside a 401k plan to keep it compliant. It's a lot of rows here, a lot of columns. This is a big pain in the ass. We want you to focus on your business, not on the 401k plan. So we want you to focus on bringing in clients. I heard, I think, John, maybe you mentioned it earlier in the call, or somebody mentioned it, that early November was a good time, and the holidays kind of get in the way and people take time off and whatever. We want you to focus on taking care of customers, their cars, marketing, not worrying about the 401k plan and the administration behind it. Also, every single year, the DOL, IRS, create new laws under ERISA. They call it ERISA laws, that change every year. That's something that we have to keep on top of, so you don't have to. So each one of these columns is something that you would need to do if you were to do it on your own. But because you're in this established plan that we have here now with the ASCCA, we take on all of these tasks. On the next slide here, these are going to be the 3 tasks that you would need to do as an employer sponsor, is monitor us So make sure that we're doing our job. So TAG, Transamerica Group, we would need you to upload payroll files. So that's the one thing we can't control. We don't have access to your payroll unless you have a payroll vendor that we integrate with. So if you have a Paychex or ADP or UKG, Paylocity, something like that, we integrate fully. If you do payroll in-house, it's just an upload every payroll period to the website. We do offer training in regards to that. If anybody on the phone does have an active plan with us, if you have an active plan with us and you have questions on that, we do have a dedicated contribution specialist that can help you. In year-end data collection, typically if we do 360 with the payroll provider, they provide that year-end data to us automatically. But if you are doing payroll in-house, that is something you would need to provide to us. And the year-end data is essentially just seeing who got hired, who got fired. We look at vesting. If you have profit sharing, maybe we have an end of the year, mandate for those folks who are working there, if there's some kind of profit sharing or match that's eligible for them. So on the next slide, here's your service team. So as I mentioned, TAG Resources, they're the plan administrator. They are going to be signing and filing your 5500. So for those folks on the line who already have us, TAG signs your 5500 automatically. Typically, they do that by the end of October 15th. That's the deadline. They can do it earlier, but usually October 15th is the deadline to gather everything up. So if you have already been with us, we've already signed and filed that for you. If you haven't switched over to us yet, we typically do that once a year. Transamerica is the record keeper, so think of us as like the bank for your money. This is where the online accesses, the app, the investments, the financial online education, prospectuses, and all that on the investments. That's the 401k provider. We do offer a 338 investment manager. It's called Fiduciary Plus, so do keep in mind, you do have questions about investments. We actually have an additional, what they call a 338. In layman's terms, it's just an additional indemnity on the investments we select on the plan. And there's a whole investment policy statement. We could provide that all to you. But, again, as an owner and for your employees, if you have questions on the investments, we're here to help. And Knox Financial, if you didn't know who Grant is, he just spoke for the last 20 minutes. So Knox Financial, they're the financial advisory firm. Again, they selected us. So Knox Financial has the final say. They make sure that we're doing our job. I do work with Grant very often. So anytime he has an issue or he needs help with something, which is very often, he'll send me a message offline. He'll call me and we'll get together. So we do work as a team. Do keep in mind that when we're doing this retirement plan, yeah, you're with Transamerica, it's a big provider, but I'm local here. I've been with Transamerica 5 years, been in the industry for 18 years. Grant's been around for a long time as well. I don't know how long Grant's been around for, but maybe 20, 30, 40 years, Grant. I don't know. But we do act as a team.
Not that high. Not that high. Let's go with 30.
Let's go with 30. So
Or 30. No, 31. 31. I can count.
So we act as a team. Do keep in mind if you are doing business with us, just because again, it's a national provider, Transamerica. You're dealing with Dan Kay and Grant.
You're not getting lost in the shuffle.
What's that?
They're not getting lost in the shuffle.
Exactly. So finally, I'm going to end on the cost, which I think is very important. Grant mentioned the tax credits. Keep that in mind. If you guys are thinking about doing a simple, or you're thinking about doing cow savers, the tax credits are going to cover 100% of the cost for the first 3 years. Our goal is to get you over the hump, which is a $500,000 of assets. So there is no annual admin cost. So the way this admin costs on a sliding scale, so from 0 to 100,000, there is a one-time $1,000 installation fee. So that's just a one-time. That's what we charge Transamerica. Annual admin is $2,500 by tag. If it's non-safe harbor. If you do decide to add a safe harbor match, it's actually going to be cheaper. We incentivize you to do a safe harbor. Grant mentioned that earlier. What a safe harbor is, essentially, if you're just adding a match, safe harbor match, it's actually just $1,000. Okay. If your plan, if it's, say you have a rollover and it's 100,000 to start, or maybe it's a takeover and you have an existing plan right now, we do not charge a one-time installation fee for any plan we take over that has over $100,000. Okay. Tag will charge, though, the $2,500 annual admin. And again, it's reduced to $1,000 if you adopt a safe harbor plan. If your assets are 250 to 500,000, meaning if you have a existing retirement plan, existing simple, something like that, and we take it over and the assets are over 250,000, again, cumulatively, the fee annual admin is $1,000. And if it's safe harbor, drops down to 250. And if your plan, say you've already had a retirement plan for a while and you haven't done a benchmark in a long time, if your plan has over $500,000, there's no annual admin fee. So we don't institute an annual admin fee once the plan is over $500,000. So do keep in mind, if your plan is new, Grant mentioned the tax credits, take advantage of those. They are permanent. So with Secure Act 2.0, they made 100% of the flat dollar cost is fully credited, meaning a check in hand by the IRS. So it's not a write-off or anything like that. When they say credit, that means check in hand. So you'll apply for that form 8881, I believe, if anyone has worked with an accountant on that. And that form, you'll make note of the hard dollar costs. So for example, say it's $3,500 first year, just mark down $3,500. That was your cost. If they need an invoice, maybe they audit or something like that, we can provide it. And they'll just send a check over for $3,500. Easy as that. So with that being said, I will kick it back over to Grant. Most important slide is his contact information.
And now we wind up entering the question and answer period. Hopefully we have some good questions. I haven't looked at the chat yet. We will have about a 32% chance of knowing the answer to whatever your question you ask. So roll the dice.
I love the statistics. Thank you so much. That was so great. I have just 3 pages of notes, which is pretty light for me. So that was a great explanation. I do have a couple of questions. Let's look at the chat first. One of them is, one of the members has a Roth and simple IRA options for the employees. Do we
No.
do that? Should we just pick one or the other? Do you have a recommendation?
Well, if you have a simple, you can't have any other type of employer plan. A simple is a one and only plan. There cannot be any bolt-ons. That can be profit sharing, cash balance, can't be anything. So really in that situation, what they're looking at is either Cal Savers, which is the Roth IRA option through their plan, or they're looking at the simple. Remember, individuals can have their own IRAs, but unless it's sponsored by the company, it's not fulfilling the mandate, right? So you have to either have the company sign up for the state-sponsored plan, or the company sponsoring its own individual plan with, i.e., the simple or the SEP or the 401k. So you can't have a company Roth, Cal Savers, and a simple at the same time. Not possible.
Gotcha. It looks like Dan was responding. There was a question about integration with QuickBooks Payroll, and it's QuickBooks Online is the compatible one.
Yeah,
right?
they have two, QuickBooks Desktop and online. If it's online, we have a link that can tap into it.
If it's desktop, it's a simple export of a CSV file. The tag will get you the template, right, to how to download it into the template, and you upload it onto the web portal. We have a few of the plans that do that. It takes about 2 minutes, maybe a minute, to download and upload after you process payroll.
Okay, because the questions along the lines like my workman's comp right now is set up that way where, I just basically do my normal payroll and then it automatically reads the payroll and of course, we'll pull the funds as needed. And here it'd be where if I could set it up, it's like, okay, I put in how much the percentage, whatever that the employee wants to put in. And at the time of payroll, it'll automatically put that in there, automatically pull it and then, report and so on. So as they say, yeah, I can set it and forget it.
Online, QuickBooks Online can be set up automatically. Yeah, desktop is, like Grant mentioned, it's a upload, but if you have online, we can set that up to be automatic.
Everything's online these days anyway. It doesn't make sense to have anything desktop anymore.
Love it. Love it.
I'm with
Thank you,
you,
Sal.
Sal. They don't make it easy for you to have desktop anyway. They don't want you to have desktop.
No, they don't.
One of the things that I was noticing, so I heard your October 15th date, Grant.
Actually,
that
October 1st. That's something I meant to put on in the slide and I didn't.
Oh,
You're going to establish a plan, a safe harbor plan, or a simple plan. You only have until October 1st to establish the plan for a January 1st start date. That's our deadline to get it done. If you do a non-safe harbor, meaning so for an employee or the important thing, distinction between a safe harbor and a non-safe harbor. Safe harbor means there's not going to be a discrimination testing. We're not going to test if the highly compensated employees are doing more to save than the non-highly compensated. So it avoids all testing. What it does, it allows a business owner to maximize their own retirement savings. If you do a non-safe harbor, so without a mandatory match, you typically are going to have the owner severely restricted in their ability to save into a retirement plan because of the top-heavy testing rules. So October 1st, speak well, October 1st, the deadline to get it done by.
okay, sounds good. I wanted to make a note of that. And then, so now, one of the questions was about sole proprietor versus a quote unquote employee.
Employees,
Some of our, I'm sorry.
W-2 wages. If you have anybody that's not an owner that has W-2 wages, they're the employee, and that will be falling under the CalSavers mandate.
So if they're a sole proprietor taking a draw, then that's not going to be W-2 wages. So they're not then required to have a plan?
Be required because they are the owner. So it's any non-owner that has W-2 wages. So if you have a sole proprietor, but instead of doing a draw, you did a W-2 for yourself, you wouldn't because payroll taxes, but you wouldn't be under the California state mandate because it has to be one or more non-owner employee,
Non-owners, okay.
$1 or more of W-2 wages.
So the kid that they hire for the summer, though, that might be their kid is not an owner, so that does qualify.
Once you put them on W-2, you now are falling under the mandate.
There you go.
I
Okay.
pay him cash under the table. I just don't want to know about it.
No, it's not worth it. I also made note of as one of the retention tools, and I think you mentioned this also. This is a real benefit to mention to employees when they're considering perhaps moving and maybe the shop doesn't have this student loan repayment program or matching funds or any of that kind of thing. So I would just encourage our shop owners to think about that. We were laughing at the beginning. There was a new hire that Sal had, and so Dave was laughing. What's his name? I'm going to steal him. But we have to stick together. We all need to provide these great benefits, and that's how ASCCA members can set themselves apart. So the other thing, I think that was the last I think that was the last question. Is there anything else from the floor? I know we're a few minutes over. I'm sorry, but I don't want to cut anyone off. Dave, please go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't see your little hand up there.
Thanks, Angie. I actually raised my hand. I know. I'd rather do that. So the opt-out function of this grant, is that go to CalSavers website and follow the track for employees to opt out?
So are we talking about if we're talking about the exemption, you go to do an employee or sponsored plan, you go to the website. If you're going to talk about the employee opting out, there is a form on CalSavers for the employee to say, basically, I don't want to contribute.
Right. Okay. That's my question. Yeah. So it's on the CalSavers website. Got it. Cool. Thank you.
But
Oh, and by the by, given my experience with Grant and his team through the foundation and the association, if you're gonna do a plan, do it with Grant. He's got his head on straight. A couple of couple of members that I work with that work with Grant have nothing but great things to say. So just wanted to offer that testimonial. I mean, it's the way to go.
I'm blushing now. Thank you.
Well, actually, thanks with that, Dave, because actually, this is something that I've always kind of considered with employees. Never really was at a point to be able to offer it, but even then, I knew that when it's time for me to offer it, it was just intimidating. So it's like, okay, how do we even go about it? So I was like, okay, let's just kick it to the side. Kick it to the side. It's like, okay, now that we're getting somewhere where it is something, of course, now that has to be done, everything, it's great that now we have this, so it gets rid of the intimidation factor.
Yeah, and because I don't have, uh, Dan wants to, he's here to present Transamerica and the plan we have. I'm an independent advisor, right? If I look at somebody and look at the situation, say, well, a 401k doesn't make sense. You don't have the contributions expected to come in to make sense. I will steer you until you go to Cal Savers, and I'll steer you into Simple or SEP or whatever it might be. I'm an unbiased person when it comes to that. It just comes down to goals, objectives, and math. And I will tell you what works, what doesn't work. One of the things we do also is if you have an existing plan, we'll evaluate it for you. We'll take a look and say, you know what, your plan is amazing. And gosh, I wish the ASCCA plan was as good as that. Or we'll tell you, wow, you're an idiot. Why are you in that plan? I really just, I'll call a spade, and we'll do all those things for you. Make sure you are compliant, make sure you are having a good plan for your business. So that is something that I'm able to do as being an independent advisor on that.
Well, it's great that since you've already worked with this group here, and I would say then, you're fully vetted in my eyes to, know that everyone in this group, runs their shop, at the highest level, highest ethics and everything. And so if they've already worked with you and fully vetted, then that says a lot to me as opposed to someone I may meet somewhere else like, oh yeah, we're the best. Or like, okay, again, with finances, there's so many things to it and so on. Who do you really trust? And now, you've already proven yourself with this group. So that says a lot.
I think
You
that's a
you
lot of
you
the
do
reason.
not want to become the 401k expert, right? I mean, yeah, that's why Grant's here. Do not become the expert. You will fail.
No, no, no. I got enough things that I have to deal with, and it's like if it's something that's out of mine, it's like I'm not dealing with it. It's like I don't even deal with my own with plumbing anymore because I got to deal with enough with the cars in this business here. It's like if I have an issue with the hot water heater, I call someone else to put that in.
As you should, Sal. James, James, what's happening?
Go ahead, James.
James, did you want to add something?
Yeah, so how does the employee determine how much he wants to contribute? Is there a minimum or?
Okay, so if they don't set their own, the auto enrollment starts at with a 401k, it starts with 5. No, 5% is a simple, 3% minimum on, no, other way around. 5% is what is set for auto enrollment, but when they become eligible, they're going to get a notice they're eligible and going to say, hey, you need to log into the website to set your preferences, or you will be auto enrolled. So at that point, any employee hopefully will get a call from us, and we'll talk to them, say, here are your options. You can go all the way up to 94% of your payroll, with a maximum of the 23,500 if they're under 50. But they set it. They have complete flexibility to change it. Now, the owners who have to do payroll don't want them to change it every week because that becomes a little bit of a pain point, having to adjust those percentages. But they are able to change it as often as they want, from 1% all the way up to 94% is what the Transamerica plan allows you to go to.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Grant. John, did you want to add something?
Yeah, couple things. I have a question. I may have missed it, so if I did, I'm sorry. So I already know the answer to this question, but so you can set up a 401k and not do a match? Is
You
that it?
You
Correct.
can't. I'll call it a traditional or non-safe harbor plan. So if you don't do a match, you are going to be paying the higher fee. It's going to be the $2,500 fee instead of the $1,000 fee, because it does require additional testing. You're going to have a mandatory top-heavy testing. What it's going to look at is, to break it down the easiest I can say, is they will look at the percentage of savings rate for all the non-highly compensated employees. That's under $150,000 of income and not an owner. So highly compensated owner, even if they only work part-time, they're an owner, automatically highly compensated. Over 150,000, highly compensated. So look at the percentage of savings for the non-highly compensated, and the highly compensated get limited. to that same amount. There's a little bit more detailed math, but that's basically it. We had a situation, a plan I didn't manage, but it was one of my clients. They were selling the business, but it was their last year. That's why they take over the plan. But anyway, they didn't realize their plan was not a safe harbor. And all of a sudden, the owner got a notice that, hey, we're kicking back like 14,000 of his $15,000 contribution because of the top heavy rules, because he was contributing a significantly higher percentage than the rank and file employees. So they disallowed his contribution, kicked it back out, and limited him to, it was like $1,000 total is all he could do for the year. So if you're, as an owner, are not going to be contributed at all, or you don't have any employees, they're going to make enough to be considered highly compensated employees, and you don't want to give them anything as an incentive to contribute or as a incentive to work for you, well, then you can do a non-safe harbor plan and not offer a match. At that point, though, I'm like thinking, well, if you're not contributing, if you don't want to do anything for employee, well, maybe you just want to go to CalSavers and keep it simple, and you're not really just check the box that way. I really find very few opportunities that a non-safe harbor makes sense. We only have one plan with the entire ASCCA that is non-safe harbor.
Got it. All right. And then testimony for Grant, seeing as how he did mention that, I know we've known each other for very, very long time. So I don't know, some of you probably, well, most of you probably don't know, but paperwork is not my favorite thing in the world. And every time I get a notice, it says, you need to do this. I send Grant an email. Hey, Grant, can you do this? And I get an email back. Handled, done. It's I've never had to fight with him to do stuff. He did mention that he's always on, he's always going to do what's best for his clients as opposed to himself. I've been dealing with him for a long time, and there are a few times that he's just been like, you don't want to do that. I mean, it would be great for me if you did that because I would make a bunch of money, but you wouldn't. And so he really does have his client's best interest in mind. So, and if anybody wants to, reach out and chat with me about what he does and how good he does, I'm happy to talk to anybody about it. So,
Well, thank you, John. The check is now in.
thank you.
And John has $100 million in the bank. So, Grant does a good job.
Yes, just short of that.
Just short of that. You had to get a new bank because the one savings account was full, right, John?
Yep.
Hey,
All
Grant,
right, well, thanks for that.
what do you mean by safe harbor?
Okay, safe harbor basically means that we don't have to have testing. It means we're going to offer all the employees a mandatory match. So if typically the minimum safe harbor match as employee or contribution is 3% of their salary. So if an employee makes, I'm going to make the math super easy. Let's say an employee makes $100,000, okay, and he wants to contribute 10% to his retirement plan. So he's going to put in $10,000 to his plan. In that case, of that $100,000, 3% of his salary you're going to match. So $3,000 you as employer will put in to match his $10,000 contribution. You can go higher. Typically, most of the plans we have done have established a 3% dollar for dollar, and the next 2%, 50 cents on the dollar. So if employee does 5, the employer matches 4. That's just kind of been the standard we've used. But safe harbor means it's a safe harbor for everybody to put money into. That there is not going to be a testing that's going to disqualify certain people out of the plan. So that's what it stands for, is that safety net that everybody who participates will get an equal opportunity to have an employer contribution.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Just any other questions? I don't think there's anything else in the chat. All right. Well, I thank you again for being here, Grant, and Dan's America. Dan K, I appreciate you both being here. It was so much to learn about these new rules and new programs. Make it easy and contact Grant. Save yourself some headaches.
Yeah, you don't have to learn those rules yourself. Make me learn them.
right? And
Exactly.
avoid the fines, for God's sake,
Yeah,
right?
that
I mean,
is the thing.
that's the big deal here, right? If you are out of compliance, it's gonna get very, very expensive. Way more expensive than being in compliance.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Especially because it's been, we've made it easy. We've all made it easy to be in
right? And
compliance.
we got 11 and a half months to sort it out. So,
Till
right?
October 1st. We have till October 1st.
10 months to sort it out. So,
If you
That's
do a
right.
safe harbor plan, you have till the end of the year. Put a safe harbor plan. October 1st.
right.
Right. So as Grant said, after this meeting, tomorrow or the next day, we'll send the slides out and you'll have those for your files. That important slide, remember, is that one at the end that has Grant's contact information. So if you have any questions for Grant, feel free to reach out to him. He's been a great friend at ASCCA. And you too, Dan, we appreciate all the help and the calls that you've taken as well.